So on Wednesday, a terror strike hit London, leaving at least 4 dead, including a police officer. The fiend, who was shot and killed by police on the scene, has now been identified as 52-year-old Khalid Massoud, obviously a Buddhist. Massoud was known by authorities for his lengthy crime sheet, although there was no police intel on him planning an attack. He used an SUV to plow down pedestrians on the Westminster Bridge near Parliament, killing 3 and injuring at least 30 people. Then he proceeded to the grounds of Parliament, where he fatally stabbed veteran police officer Keith Palmer. ISIS claimed responsibility, saying Massoud was, quote, an Islamic State soldier who carried out the operation in response to calls to target citizens of the coalition. Translation, he was a loser. This is a, you know, I'm trying to find an upside to this, Chuck, and I know, but there is something about the downsizing of terror. Because it's like, if this is what if the weapon right now is a car, right, at least it's not a plane. And maybe this is just temporary until they figure out what's worse. But the fact is, now they're kind of like, they're forced to find other ways to do things. And the ways to do things are not as horrifying as 9/11. And I'm just trying to think, maybe that's progress, as horrible as it is. Does that make sense?
I think you're right. And I also think that what we have to be vigilant about is that we wake up every morning, we're having our coffee, we're fixing our kids to go to school, if that's what our thing is, and there's a story on TV. And it may not be in our country, it could be in another country. Yeah. I just don't want us to ever get numb to it. We should feel the pain that England feels, because it could have been us, right? Democrats or Republicans, our first job is to secure our country, make sure that we keep our people safe. And I think that because of what you're saying, they've become smaller. I think that what we were doing is working to make them have to use a car, but we still have to be as vigilant, not saying that you're saying we don't have to be.
No, you're right.
And I think that it's something very important that we should take it as serious as whether they were flying an airplane, and say that what we're doing is working, but always be vigilant, because I think that we do get numb, because it's a natural human element. As a political consultant, trying to figure out people's minds and what they're thinking about, you want to keep that on the forefront of what we're thinking. No,
it's true. In fact, I mean, it's the intent to kill is still the same. If that car was a plane, they'd wish it was a plane. But for now, they have cars. I'm worried, too, Jonah, about, like, we had this ban of electronic devices that kind of like was blown out of the news. And the scary part of that is that the devices are now getting smaller and smaller and smaller. So the car thing, I'm saying, maybe that means terror is waning. But then I look at this and I go, no, their measures are shrinking, which means it could be worse.
Yeah, look, there's actually, I mean, I know this is not the craziest, funniest topic, but there's actually a lot of intelligence that says that Al-Qaeda and its Al-Nusra, not Al-Nusra Front, but the Khorasan group are working on all sorts of new bomb techniques that can get past security.
Yeah.
And this idea that this was just sort of a bigoted attempt to keep Muslims from carrying their laptops on planes from these countries is kind of nonsense.
Right.
I mean, it may not be the right policy, it may be the right policy, but there is actual intelligence that says that these guys are trying to come up with new, scary stuff.
There was a guy that got his ass blown up because he had inserted like an explosive suppository. This happened a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I thought you were going back to that thing about the Taco Bell meal smelling the cod, but anyway.
It feels that way sometimes. Tell me about it. Ring of Fire. Tyrus, I look at the vigils, like when you see people, and I know that it's meaningful, but I always feel like sometimes when these people are lighting candles and making heart hand symbols, that's where it ends. Like the sentiment, they stop with the sentiment is enough, but they don't want to act because they're worried about appearing Islamophobic. So do the vigil, but don't say what's wrong.
And to your point, real quick, just the airport thing, I thought it was funny. I read a story where certain airport companies were making fun of the idea of not being able to take your laptop and stuff on the plane. And I think it's a joke until it's their plane that's blown on sideways because the technology is getting smaller.
Yeah.
One of the things with this attack that I personally thought was really a strength of courage, when the attacks are getting smaller and they take credit for it and they hit these acts of terror. UK, you see them providing first aid to the terrorists. And a lot of people your first reaction, no, let them bleed out in the street. But then you're playing their narrative.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for them to show that video, to show the resolve and the character of the people. Yes, this man is a criminal, he's a terrorist, but this is how we do our business, this is how we take care of people. You guys aren't going to change our resolve. So for that, I commend them. And you're right, lighting a candle, and then it stops there.
Yeah.
But at the same time, where are the Muslim groups coming out that are condemning this stuff?
Yeah.
You know, to me, that's, and then you're putting bans on us and Muslim this, and as a minority, if it was a brother who came out and did that, and yelled some black group responsibility, I would be the first one out and be like, the hell with that dude. Those guys are wrong.
Yeah, but in terms of the ban, I mean, this was a guy that came from within. A ban wouldn't have done any good in this situation. In this country, that's usually what happens too. There's never been a lethal attack by a jihadist in this country by someone who wasn't supposed to be here, someone who wasn't a citizen or legal resident. And it's terrifying because it's, what do you do? I don't know, great question, but just to say, you know, this is a reasoning for the ban, that just doesn't make sense.
No, but I'm not supporting I'm not saying the ban, I'm saying in the sense of like groups coming out, because you're right, you're 100% right, Kat. Most of the attacks, the big attacks in this country, looking at, I think 4 or 5 were done by Muslims,
since
17
9/11, like there's never been a lethal
angry white American males. I mean, so most of the attacks that come are coming from within.
Yeah.
But when these things happen, he wants to claim, or he is claimed by ISIS, the groups within need to come out and say, no, it's not okay, because then that's what spreads the fear, because no one in the other Muslim groups who aren't this way aren't coming out and saying, that's wrong, we condemn them. We're lighting candles for them. We're saying no. We're going to help be vigilant. We're going to watch our neighborhoods when we see guys, we speak the language. When we hear different things, we're going to report. We're not hearing that stuff.
Yeah. Or for, maybe they're doing it and they can't say they're doing it because of what would happen to them from, Muslims kill Muslims. They're the #1 victims of their, And
when I said never, I meant since 9/11. I just want to say that so people don't tweet at me that I think I'm an idiot.
All right.
Thank you.
We get enough of that, Kat.
Yeah, I do.
All right. Coming up, a story so unbelievable you might mistake it for the moon landing. Didn't happen. But first, while President Trump's trying to keep us safe, he's being blamed for ruining spring break. Yeah, find out why.